Why would a city promise zero taxpayer money for a stadium, then quietly spend 152 million euros of public funds? That's the question haunting Zaragoza, Spain, right now. The new La Romareda Stadium has become a political scandal, with broken promises, exploding costs, and a tiny 170,000 euro legal dispute that nearly stopped the entire project. Opposition politicians call it the Great Urban Development Scheme, while city officials canceled promised projects to cover the bills. But here's what makes this story incredible. Despite all the chaos, they're building something extraordinary. A 43,000-seat stadium literally shaped by wind, where the roof creates a 360-degree sky promenade with views of the entire city. And most importantly, Spain's future home for the 2030 FIFA World Cup. So how did Zaragoza go from 20 years of failed attempts to finally building their dream stadium? And why is everyone so angry about it? This is the complete story. La Romareda opened on September 8, 1957, when Real Zaragoza beat Osasuna 4-3 in front of a roaring crowd. With a capacity of over 33,000, it quickly became the city's heartbeat, home to Copa del Rey triumphs, World Cup and Olympic matches, and unforgettable concerts by Michael Jackson and Gloria Estefan. Even its goal nets were iconic, stretching 4 meters deep in Zaragoza's blue and white. But by the 2000s, time had caught up. The concrete stands were cracking, roofs leaked every winter, and narrow exits failed modern safety standards. La Romareda no longer met UEFA Category 4 requirements, meaning Zaragoza couldn't host major European matches even if they qualified. And for fans, it wasn't just the stadium that was falling apart. Real Zaragoza had slipped from La Liga contenders to a struggling second division side. The decaying arena became a symbol of decline, of a club and a city that had lost its way. But here's where things get fascinating. Zaragoza has been trying to replace La Romareda for over 20 years, and every single attempt ended in failure. The first came in 2002, when famed architect Ricardo Bofill designed a 42,000-seat stadium for just 47 million euros. The idea was simple: sell the old site for apartments, and use that money to build the new one. But fierce political infighting between parties killed the project before it even began. 2 years later, in 2004, a new mayor tried again. Madrid's Estudio Lamela designed a modern angular stadium to rise on the same site. Construction was set to begin on April 17, 2006. Workers arrived, ready to break ground, but just hours before they started, a court order halted everything. The PAR political party, the same one that had backed the previous plan, filed a lawsuit claiming the stadium would harm local residents. Politics once again stopped the bulldozers. Part of the problem was ownership. La Romareda belonged to the city, not the club. Every decision required government approval, tenders, and legal reviews. A bureaucratic maze that turned each new idea into a political weapon. Every mayor wanted to be remembered as the one who rebuilt La Romareda. None succeeded. By 2020, everyone had given up. La Romareda was outdated, unsafe, and politically toxic. Then, something incredible happened. In 2022, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco announced a joint bid to host the 2030 FIFA World Cup. FIFA made it clear only modern, all-seater Category 4 stadiums would qualify. Suddenly, Zaragoza had leverage and a deadline. This time, failure wasn't an option. In June 2022, city officials partnered with IDOM, one of Spain's most respected architecture firms. On July 14th, the Spanish Football Federation announced 15 candidate venues, and La Romareda made the list. The project was back from the dead. Initially, Real Zaragoza wanted to handle everything privately, seeking a 75-year lease with private investors, promising not a single euro of taxpayer money. The 140 million euro plan projected annual profits of 15 million, but in April 2023, the Podemos party challenged the deal in court, and by September, the club was forced to abandon it. Then came the turning point. On October 4th, 2023, FIFA officially awarded the 2030 World Cup to Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. Zaragoza officials panicked. Without a new stadium, they'd lose World Cup matches. Within weeks, 3 partners struck a deal: Zaragoza City Council, the Aragon Regional Government, and Real Zaragoza. In December, they formed La Nueva Romareda SL, a joint company to build and manage the stadium, each owning equal shares. By July 2024, Zaragoza was confirmed as one of 11 Spanish host cities. After 2 decades of failure, success had finally arrived, but one question remained: what would the new La Romareda look like? IDOM's lead architect, Cesar Azcarate, didn't just design a stadium. He designed a love letter to Zaragoza's geography, and it all begins with the wind. Zaragoza sits in the Ebro Valley, where a powerful northerly wind known as the Cierzo roars through the landscape. Instead of resisting it, Azcarate embraced it, making the wind the heart of his design. The new La Romareda feels sculpted by nature itself. Its north and south sides curve inward to shield against the Cierzo, while the east and west bulge outward, reaching toward Eduardo Ibarra Plaza and Paseo de Isabel la Católica. The new stadium's capacity jumps from 33,600 to 43,110 seats, expandable for concerts and major international events. But size is just the beginning. The design blends practicality with beauty. The compact facade houses both sporting and commercial spaces, sleek and uniform by day, but at night it comes alive. The double shell exterior glows like a lantern, lighting up the roof and facade so that the energy inside radiates into the city streets. Then comes the roof, the stadium's true masterpiece. Built from lightweight materials, it covers every seat, ensuring no fan gets caught in the rain. But it does more than that. The roof extends outward, forming a 360-degree promenade around the arena, a circular walkway offering panoramic views of Zaragoza on one side and the pitch on the other. The stadium's location enhances that connection with the city. It opens directly into Parque Grande José Antonio Labordeta, one of Zaragoza's largest parks. Vegetation flows naturally from the park into the open plazas surrounding the stadium, merging park, plaza, and sports ground into one seamless civic space. This isn't just a football venue, it's a living, breathing part of the community. Inside, the design centers on one core idea: intensity. The 2-tiered stands, with the lower level built partly below ground, create a steep, compact bowl that pulls fans close to the pitch. Every detail was refined to amplify the roar of the crowd and the pressure on visiting teams. Between the tiers sit narrow VIP balconies, premium seats, and the presidential box. Below, the exclusive pitch club gives guests a direct view into the players' tunnel, letting them feel the tension as teams walk out to face 43,000 roaring fans. The main stand rises 5 stories above ground, with 2 more levels below. Inside, fans will find a club museum celebrating Real Zaragoza's history, an official team store, and modern commercial spaces. The stadium also incorporates cutting-edge broadcasting facilities, high-definition cameras, fiber optic networks, and giant video screens, ensuring world-class production for global audiences. Security and comfort are just as advanced. Surveillance systems, controlled access points, and emergency routes meet strict FIFA and UEFA standards. Even the seats are redesigned, wider, more comfortable, and painted in Real Zaragoza's iconic blue and white. On July 8, 2024, Mayor Natalia Chueca stood before cameras and officially launched construction. Demolition began, but here's where things got complicated. Real Zaragoza still needed a place to play. The solution? Only demolish the south stand initially, while keeping the other 3 operational. This created one of the weirdest scenes in football. Throughout the 2024 and 2025 season, fans watched matches in a partially demolished stadium. Construction crews worked on new foundations for the south stand, while games happened just meters away. It was surreal, half construction site, half functioning stadium. But city planners had a backup strategy. Between January and July 2025, they built a temporary modular stadium in just 6 months. Located at Parking Norte near Expo Zaragoza, this 20,000-seat venue cost approximately 15 million euros. Fans were amazed it was built so fast. The stadium features 1 covered stand and 3 uncovered stands, complete with floodlights, video screens, food outlets, and broadcast facilities. Then came a major boost. On July 1st, 2025, Ibercaja Bank signed a 10-year naming rights deal worth up to 19 million euros. The temporary venue became Ibercaja Stadium, and the future new ground would be known as Ibercaja Romareda until 2035. Ibercaja pays 1 million euros per year, while Real Zaragoza stay in Spain's second division, doubling to 2 million euros if they reach La Liga. The problem? The club hasn't been there since 2013, 12 long years of frustration. After Real moved to their temporary home in summer 2025, full demolition began. The west, north, and east stands came down, and construction shifted into high gear. The contractor Oatla committed to finishing 13 weeks ahead of schedule. If everything goes right, the stadium opens in June 2027, giving Real Zaragoza their new home for the 2027-28 season. But things didn't go smoothly. In February 2025, a small dispute almost brought the project to a halt. A contractor filed a complaint over a 170,000 euro safety coordination deal, barely 0.1% of the total cost, claiming the city broke bidding rules. The court temporarily suspended the contract, meaning work technically couldn't continue without a safety coordinator. Officials insisted everything was still on schedule, but fears grew that even a minor legal setback could push Zaragoza past its World Cup deadline. The biggest controversy involves broken promises. Politicians Jorge Azcón, president of Aragon, and Natalia Chueca, mayor of Zaragoza, repeatedly promised zero public funding. This won't cost taxpayers a single euro, they declared. That was a lie. First, the cost rose to 80 million euros in public money. Critics protested, but officials said it was necessary. Then, in November 2024, they dropped a bombshell. They needed another 72 million euros from public coffers. Total public funding reached over 152 million euros, the opposite of their promises. Opposition politicians were furious. They accused officials of orchestrating El Gran Pelotazo Urbanístico, the Great Urban Development Scheme. Professor Jorge Calderón and other academics questioned whether this massive investment truly benefited regular citizens or just enriched connected insiders. Some pointed to suspicious connections. Sport Around the World, a company involved in Real Zaragoza's ownership structure, is owned by Juan Forcén, a personal friend of President Azcón. The company opened a Luxembourg subsidiary, participating in the Nueva Romareda project. Critics smelled corruption. To find the extra money, the city canceled the Smart Sports City project, one of its biggest campaign promises. Funds that could have gone towards schools, hospitals, and community programs were diverted to the stadium instead. For many residents, it felt like betrayal, another broken promise in a city that had waited decades for something to believe in. Now, let's talk about the money, because this is where everything falls apart. When La Nueva Romareda SL was formed in 2023, the plan seemed solid. The city council provided the land, the regional government of Aragon put up funds, and Real Zaragoza chipped in their share. Each owned a third. Construction was supposed to cost around 140 million euros, with no public money beyond that. But within a year, the budget ballooned to nearly 170 million euros. The main contract covered most of it, but key additions like technology, the pitch, and seating pushed costs even higher, not to mention the 15 million euro temporary stadium. Then came the real shock. The city and regional governments had to pour in another 70 million euros just to keep the project alive. That changed everything. The city council and the government of Aragon took on a bigger stake, while Real Zaragoza's share dropped to just a quarter. In the end, taxpayers were covering more than 152 million euros of the bill, a staggering reversal of the original promise that no public money would be used. To afford this, Zaragoza canceled the Smart Sports City project. Critics argue that money could have fixed schools, hospitals, and neighborhoods instead. Can they pay it back? Ibercaja's naming rights bring 1 to 2 million annually. The The stadium will host concerts, events, and hopefully Spanish national team matches. VIP boxes and commercial spaces will generate income. Most importantly, hosting 2030 World Cup matches could bring massive tourism revenue. But the risks are enormous. Real Zaragoza has been in the second division for 12 consecutive years. What if they don't improve? What if World Cup revenue disappoints? Taxpayers could be stuck with 152 million euros in debt for a money-losing stadium. There's one bright spot. The stadium achieved BREEAM Excellent certification with a 77% sustainability score. As of October 2025, demolition is nearly complete, 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The temporary stadium is operational. Construction is progressing toward a June 2027 opening, 3 months early and 3 years before the 2030 World Cup. When Ibercaja Romareda opens on August 31st, 2027, it will be spectacular, a wind-sculpted masterpiece of sustainable architecture. But behind the beauty lies a darker story of broken promises, spiraling costs, and public money spent despite assurances it wouldn't be. Will the 2030 World Cup justify everything, or will this become one of Spain's most expensive mistakes? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the people of Zaragoza will be paying for this stadium long after the World Cup leaves town. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of football's most controversial stadiums, make sure to like this video and subscribe the channel for more interesting videos about football.